The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on December 5th, 2023.
A very big aloha and welcome to Business Matters, sponsored by Hawaii's own Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Cindy Paulus, honored to be sitting in for Pam Tupop today. We have a great show for you today. I'm really looking forward to talking to our guest. First guest is going to be Scott Hopkins, Executive Director of Feed My Sheep Maui. And we're also going to be talking to Erickson of Maui Honeybee Sanctuary. And then we'll talk to Tom Burke of Burke and Burke Jewelry. And we're going to start off with an amazing man, Feed My Sheep. Scott is going to be here. I just want to introduce him first. Probably you've heard about Feed My Sheep. They're really a unique mobile phone food distribution program. They've been around for a while, and they really have been having quite an interesting year trying to feed all the sheep that need help out there. There's quite a few. They're good shepherds. You are good shepherds indeed. You've been out there providing bags of groceries to anyone who needs help, and that's quite a few people now. And they also give emotional support by offering a listening ear, a prayer, so that they can experience love and not judgment in the times of need. A very big aloha to you, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Sydney. Thank you so much. And how are you doing today?
Great. You have always provided an amazing service to the community. How many years have you been in business here?
Feed My Sheep began in 1999. It was a very small start, but we've been growing ever since then. At first, it was only 6 families. Now we're up to, in certain years, about 10,000 households per year.
10,000. So this year, you were already in place, knowing kind of how to do what was going to be needed to do on steroids of sorts. You had to take it to a level you never could have imagined, right?
Yeah, I think we have had a lot of good preparation during COVID for how to handle these Lahaina viruses. It's good that we went through that dry run. The Lahaina fires, of course, are different. They are a true emergency where we had to kick in kind of a secondary purpose. Our primary purpose is to be nutritional support.
Mm-hmm. And it's needed, very much needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, with the fires, we have always maintained a lot of emergency supplies, as much as we could handle, in our small warehouse, so that if something like a hurricane or tsunami came along, we would have something to offer in the immediate aftermath. But the fires required us to bring all of those out of storage and get those into the hands right away. We were able to be on the ground the first day after the fire, which was a bit heartbreaking to go there and see what was actively being dealt with by our amazing fire department. And then we did help for the first couple of days and stood back as a lot of national agencies came out of the ground and helped us get organized and figure out how to attack this from a long-term perspective.
Was it hard to find a base to set up, or you just worked out of your mobile situation there? Because everything was chaos for the first few days, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. No, the site that we used to use in Lahaina was right on Front Street. It was Lahaina United Methodist Church. And actually, the first day we went in to bring supplies, we brought out one of our, we don't have clients, we call them friends, but a friend named John who had stayed through the night, through the fire, to try to keep hoses running on that church to keep it from burning. And finally, he reached a point where he had to protect his own life, and he escaped by the skin of his teeth. But we were able to, I'd use one of our friends who's been with us for a while. I think at one point he might have been homeless, and he's there giving back to the community just because he knows how important it is to save these old historic structures and all that. And, I was really moved by his bravery.
Absolutely. There's so many heroes we haven't yet heard about. And I think your team is one of them. Basically, do you get your food from volunteers, or how do you get your food to feed the sheep?
Our primary method is through gleaning. We work with stores. Costco is one of the big names that people recognize. They have all this produce that they go through, and it reaches the point where it's still good, but no one's going to pay for that particular package because there's one damage in it. So we bring it back, sort it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a team of volunteers who does that process with us every Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we rebox what we can, what's good for human consumption, and we send that out. And then we also have support from the county and local businesses, the Chamber of Commerce in particular. And then we have a lot of individual and church donors. So we use those funds to keep the logistic end of this going, where we can go and purchase food if we need to. We can look for gaps in nutrition, provide proteins and carbohydrates along with all this nutritious produce that we're trying to rescue from being wasted.
And are you getting help and support, more help and support, because you need to give more now from volunteers and your team? And again, I probably should put out how do people do that, because your need is so deep. It's and everyone needs. There's so many needs right now, but I know there are people who have known you and about your work for a long time, and I imagine you still would love some donations and volunteers, right?
Absolutely. We have seen a huge increase in donations in the months that have followed the fires. We've been really grateful for the fact that we haven't had to worry about the money aspect of how we respond. That is a short-term thing because money is finite, of course. Mm-hmm. But we are at a point where we're starting to look at the long-term portion of this recovery, and we know we're going to have to connect with new supporters to keep that long-term recovery going, because there is the goal of our organization is nutrition. Mm-hmm. And what we have found is there's a lot of really helpful canned goods and shelf-stable items, but people are really craving and needing the food that's going to support their long-term health and recovery. Anyone who's gone through an injury or an illness knows that nutrition is critical to getting back on your feet.
I think it's so important. And I think you're kind of unique in that way of realizing that when you're going through such a huge need, sometimes it's just like, well, let's just get food out there. So people were, as you were saying, I imagine a lot of people were just doing canned goods and whatever snacks and things like that. But I don't know how many people actually had that goal of thinking about nutrition and the way it affects people's state of mind and their well-being. And you know how important it is when you're under the stress that these people are under. And I imagine many probably of the people there in line have post-traumatic stress to try to keep them in a stable state with the food that they're eating.
Absolutely. Well, Joyce, the founder, as well as my wife, who's been involved with the organization, and myself, all reached a point in about 2012 where we looked at the food that we had to offer at the time, and then we considered our health journey and realized that we wanted to share that. Mm-hmm. So all of us had grown up with kind of poor nutrition. Mine was a choice. They had gone through poverty and recognized the health detriments that had happened to us, mm-hmm. and recognized that if we did not start looking for a way to get nutritious food into the bags of our friends, we just wouldn't be satisfied. So that was more for our hearts to be able to, in good faith and with a good conscience, offer the best food that's going to help people get through their hard times.
That's an amazing vision. Well, you have had this vision. Are you seeing at this point, we are now in, I guess, what we might call the second or third phase of recovery out there? In the beginning, I imagine you just had a lot of people who didn't have any idea of what was going to be happening and came. At this point, are you just seeing regular people who are out there who need some help or coming on a regular basis to get the food from you?
Yeah, we're settling into a bit of a rhythm of familiar faces. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people that we had connected to in Lahaina prior to the fire have been displaced to different parts of the island. Mm-hmm. So we're thankful to be able to reconnect with them in Kahului and Kihei and Wailuku.
How do you do that? I didn't know. I thought you were just doing the lineup.
No, we've been in 4 sites for quite a while now. That way we can get to every corner of the island. And actually every month we also serve in Hana on the last Wednesday.
Oh,
But each location has a site, a day of the week that's assigned to that site. So every Thursday we're in Lahaina. Every Friday we're in Happy Valley and Wailuku.
oh,
And every Saturday we do 2 at a time. We do one in Kahului and one in Kihei.
wow.
So that, those were able to just increase a little bit and absorb a lot of displaced individuals. And then we had to find a brand new site in Kahana at the Kahana Gateway Shopping Center for our Thursday distributions. And that one definitely was constantly new people. Even to this day, about 60% of those who come are coming for the first time to us.
Wow.
We're co-located with the West Side Food Hub. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they can go to them and get cans and household goods and various other supplies. And then on every Thursday, we're there with our fresh produce and local goods.
Well, in the past, you were feeding up to about 3,200 people. What is it looking like this year?
Well, that's normally an unduplicated number for the whole year, that 3,200. And in the first quarter, we already reached that annual goal.
Wow.
So you can only imagine it'll go up from there.
I know someone, I'm friends with RMS World Travel. Robert and Mary Carey came out in September, and I know they went up for a day, at least I know Mary did, to volunteer. They like to volunteer. I know we have many people who do come. You've seen probably so many people wanting to help, and it sure must make your heart feel good. It makes my heart feel good to know that people coming are trying to help. You have a program for visiting volunteers, and are you seeing people respond that way?
Absolutely. Right now, that's a majority of our volunteer base, which is amazing. I get to share how we do things with them. A lot of them have seen something similar, but we have what we call our Feed by Sheep song. We're similar but different to what they've seen before. And so we're able to explain how we do it and why we do it the way we have for this area in this community. And they have been they've been the relief valve for all of us who are on Maui and who are kind of in mourning right now. Mm-hmm. They've supported us tremendously through this period of grief and change and uncertainty. Yeah, the vacationing volunteers have been critical for this season, and we've appreciated it. The only thing that I wish is that we had more slots to put them in. I am having to say no to a few every week just because we want to keep the number of volunteers in a decent proportion to the number of people being served so that we can provide a personal experience that's beneficial for our friends and also for our volunteers. And if we overdo the volunteers, we found that it gets a little more chaotic and it gets a little bit more uncertain and it gets a little less personal. So we do keep it right at a level that we believe can maximize all of our values.
I think that's very special, and it's wise of you to realize that because you are unique in this way of really caring. I mean, obviously, your name, Feed My Sheep, says that, and that is important as well as the food. Nutrition for the soul, nutrition for caring, someone that can be giving from their heart, not just trying to slop the food out there and give them back and walk away. Get through the line. There's a big difference, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And that's how we have, over the years, developed relationships with our friends so that I can, know someone, like I mentioned John earlier, or any of hundreds of others who, I can have an understanding of their story when I run into them and be a lot more gentle with them if they're in a tender spot or what have you, which is a lot of people right now.
Yeah, absolutely. How has this experience, because you've been doing this a long time, and here we're coming up to Christmas, and a lot of people, I think, crave the experience of trying to still have some routine to celebrate, but they're still in such pain, and you're seeing it firsthand. How do you try to give them the experience of normalcy at the same time when they're in crisis?
Well, we get to be a consistent face. That's one of the normal things I guess we can offer. And then, of course, it's built into our program that they're going to have one person who's kind of spending a few minutes with them and asking them how they're really doing, and the chance to talk and to vent. And then we have kept some of our traditions, like for Thanksgiving, instead of expecting them to be in a line with us the week before, we've given them a lot of extra food. And this year, really grateful that we were to kind of blow them away with the amount of food they got to take home and use for a special meal with their family. And ultimately, our goal is to get that food into the homes, right? So we're trying to help them get to a place where it's not about coming and being with us, it's about having something to take home and feel like they're in control of their holiday experience.
Very interesting perspective. I had not quite said that they are in control, because you know what? So much has been out of control, hasn't it, with this whole situation? And there is some kind of security in having that. Now, you have a unique situation because you really have an understanding of nutrition. I know we have a couple minutes left, but I'd like to just talk about your vision for farming as a pathway to nutrition.
Yeah. Feed My Sheep has always been a donated space. So the space that we use was given to us by and with a view to farming. Now, some ownership changes have meant that now we're actually looking for a new space. But what we are looking for is an area that we can introduce our friends to sustainable household growing. Basically, we know that getting connected to the soil and getting connected to your food is an important part of kind of slowing down. It's great de-stress for people. And then it also gives them that sense that if something goes wrong, they have a skill to fall back on. So our goal is to create just small-scale individual farming, like a backyard, a one-eye garden, a raised box somewhere. But to have the space where we can create the resources to teach them that well. I'm not a farmer, so we are leaning on the expertise of a lot of experts in the area. And we have brought in some staff members who have a similar vision and have some experience that we hope to employ soon.
Well, I think that is the gift that keeps on giving, right? I mean, that if you can have that. And, you know, it's interesting. I've seen this happening in some of the schools. You might have heard about it, but Grow Some Good and others have found when the kids learn how to do this, they're very open to doing this, and they love it. And their parents learn from the kids who are learning to do it. So it's a wonderful thing because it keeps growing that way, right?
Exactly.
Well, we're just about out of time, my friend, but I love what you're doing. How do people find out about you, donate to you? What's your site that people can go to, Scott?
They can go to feedmysheepmaui.com, just like it sounds, feedmysheepmaui.com. Or they can also volunteer with us on handsonmaui.com, and that will have multiple sites, but they can look for Feed My Sheep and volunteer there.
I'm going to repeat that. The last one I wasn't aware of, so I'm going to repeat that first. handsonmaui.com. If you want to volunteer and to donate, it would be feedmysheepmaui.com.
Correct.
Scott, God bless you. Thank you for what you're doing. It's really important work. I'm so glad to see that you're there doing so much good for so many people. So, mele kaliki maka, and thanks for what you're doing, okay?
Mahalo, Cindy.
Mahalo to you. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our wonderful sponsors. We really appreciate Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
And welcome back. Thank you, Mokulele Airlines. I'm Cindy Paulos here, sitting in for Pam Toompop. You're listening to Business Matters. I always enjoy listening to the show myself. Not only this morning, but the repeats that happen on Friday. And I love small business owners, always like supporting them. And we're going to talk to a wonderful lady called Erickson. She's the owner of Maui Honeybee Sanctuary. And I bet she's busy as a bee. Erickson is on a mission to educate the public about one of our most important pollinators. The honeybee. Erica moved to Maui in 2015, where she began the Maui Honeybee Sanctuary. And she kind of wants to bridge that gap between people's fear of bees and and their appreciation of this really, truly amazing being of a bee. She first became aware of the honeybees when she started making products with beeswax. Yes, she was making candles, and I love beeswax candles, by the way, Erica. Also lotions, reusable food wraps. I like that idea. She turned her love of crafting with beeswax into a brand called The Beehive, in which she operates a shop in downtown Paia. And she enjoys connecting with the public with bees through her products while inviting visitors to enjoy hands-on experience with bee gloves, I hope, at the sanctuary through her educational program called Maui Honey Bee Adventure. Aloha, Erica. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Thank you. I am great. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to find out about what you're doing. You know, this is such an important subject, and so many are now becoming aware. Don't you see this in the last 5 or 10 years? We're becoming more than ever aware of how important bees are.
Oh, certainly. People are becoming way more aware of the most important thing for our planet that the bees do is the pollination that they provide. And people are really curious about the bees. So I have visitors from all over the world stopping by the bee sanctuary just to see our operation and also participate in one of our bee tours.
So is the bee sanctuary separate from where your location is in downtown Paia?
Yeah, that's right. So about 7 years ago, I started the bee sanctuary. This is where I first started keeping bees. And it's located near to Ulupalakua, so kind of near Maui Wine, overlooking the beautiful Tenaya Coast and La Cruz Bay. And so that's where my bee yard is, where my apiary is. So I keep my bees there, and I started with a roadside stand there many years back and started selling my products. And then about 2 years ago, I expanded into Paia to open up a shop and see all the customers in town as well.
You know, there is such amazing properties that go back actually thousands of years. I'm sure you're aware. I mean, every time I read about bees or find out more, I am actually amazed at all the herbal value of products that come from bees. Now, I like propolis myself. I mean, I've been turning people on who are singers that I know to propolis. I mean, it's one of the best things for your throat that you can find. But the lotions even. And I mean, I've heard of such amazing healing from people who even had burns and other problems with lotions. And you have lip balms and candles and food wraps. Tell us a little bit about what you're creating and the value of each of those products.
Sure. So I started with using beeswax. So one of the first products I made was lip balm. So using beeswax to combine that with coconut oil, mango butter, avocado oil, and sometimes I use essential oils too. So I have a lavender one as well. And that kind of evolved into lotion. So I make something called a bee balm, which is really great for really dry skin. It helps with clear up eczema and psoriasis, and kind of the same ingredients as well. And then there's just so much you can make with things from the hive and different beeswax products. I make candles. I make pure beeswax candles in these beautiful molded shapes. I make soaps. And then I also make my own tea blend, which goes great with the honey.
Oh, I want some. I meditate every morning. And I burn a candle every morning. And a lot of people are not aware of the difference between a homemade candle made as you make it versus a candle they might just buy in a market. Can you tell us the difference?
Yeah, definitely. So beeswax is the longest and cleanest burning of all the candle waxes. So it actually emits negative ions when it burns, and it cleanses the air. So people that have allergies, it helps with that. And it's very clean, so it's not polluting the air when you burn it. When you think of another candle that you buy in the store, they're often using paraffin, and that's basically the sludge left over from oil barrels, and they needed to put it in something, and they add scent to it, and they make candles. So when you burn that, you are actually polluting your home, although it might smell nice temporarily. I don't think it's a long-term good for your health.
You know, I think they make wonderful holiday gifts. I mean, really. And if you were to buy a regular candle at a retail outlet, that wouldn't be such a nice gift, but a handmade beeswax candle is a very nice gift. There's a big difference. I think it's wonderful. What is your address in Paia, by the way?
So I'm at 16 Baldwin Avenue. So if you look for the purple building with the yellow doors and the bee signs, you'll see us. It's called The Beehive.
Now, I had never heard about bee food wraps. Imagine it's bee wax. I've never, ever heard of that before. Where did you come up with that idea?
Well, I think the idea's been around for a long time, and I picked up on it about 7 years ago when I first started keeping bees. So what I do is I collect the beeswax from our hives. I filter it just to take out any of the dirt and debris that's in that wax. And then I melt it. And actually, beeswax turns to liquid when you heat it up. And then I take fabric that I dip in that wax. And what's really cool about the fabric, I use all cotton fabric. It actually absorbs the wax just perfectly, just the amount that's needed to make this food wrap. So then you take this food wrap and you can use it directly on food. You can use it on any type of container because it sticks to itself, as well as plastic and metal and glass. And you just wash it and you reuse it over and over again. So it's certainly an eco-friendly alternative to the plastic wrap or the tinfoil that we use and discard.
So you kind of have to be a chemist as well. Are you creating a lotion and everything? You got to make the right amount where it's not going to stick to your skin, but it's going to go on.
Yeah.
You don't want to go out with honey all over your skin because you will be a magnet for everything from bees to flies, I imagine, right?
Yeah, and that's part of the process. That's the creation that I enjoy so much. So, you try, and if it doesn't work, you try it again and change it, and just making the right blends of wax and oils to make that perfect lotion and on all the products. It's just amazing, and it's fun. It's fun for me. It's what I enjoy the most.
There is a passion that I've seen growing. I saw a beautiful story, I think it was on 60 Minutes, about a young girl that started at the age of 7 wanting to do beehives and do all that. And she just kept growing. And she had a passion for it. And I saw her out there. She even got the guy from CBS out to see her beehives and everything. And it's pretty amazing when you see that it's kind of an interesting thing. The bees kind of draw you in, don't they?
Yeah, they're so amazing, and I love showing people for the first time the bees because, everyone has that initial fear of the bees, and so they're a little timid around the bees, but, we get people in bee suits so they're fully protected. And when I first pull out that frame of bees from a hive, people are just really just amazed by it, and I give them the opportunity to, hold the bees in their hand, and they can just, really take it in and feel the vibration of the bees and see them all working, and I really love when you see that they're just working and they're not all out to get us. And it's a really amazing experience. And it's peaceful, actually.
So are bees afraid of people?
I don't believe so. They just want their nectar to take it back to the hive to make honey. So they're not out to get us.
Yeah.
They're vegan. They're just after the pollen from the plants and the nectar. They're not trying to eat anything else. They don't eat any other insects. So unlike their close relative, the wasp, the honeybee is not killing any other insects to survive.
Oh.
Yeah, it just wants honey. So when you see a bee out in the field, it's just trying to work and it's not trying to bother you.
It's interesting because where I live in Pukalani, there are wasps, but there's also bees, and I've seen a couple of dead bees lately. Would wasps attack bees, or what attacks bees?
Wasps can, but bees do die out naturally. So there's about 2,000 eggs laid per day inside a hive, and about 2,000 bees naturally die out. Unfortunately, if you have a neighbor using something like Roundup or some other pesticide or herbicide, this could be a cause for the death, but let's hope it's not that.
Yeah, definitely. How long do bees live?
The bees live about 6 weeks, so the worker bee, it's a really short time. She basically dedicates her life to the hive, so she's out there gathering everything the hive needs to survive, and over about 6 weeks of time, her wings patter out. She can no longer fly, and she does die after that. But the queen, on the other hand, can live 3 to 5 years. So there's a big difference.
Wow.
And the queen is the one laying the egg. So she has a longer life, and she stays safe inside the hive. So she doesn't have that risky job of going outside. She just stays inside and lays the eggs to make the babies.
So that about propolis. I was told that's from the queen bee jelly. Is that true?
Actually, it's a little bit different substance. So the propolis is actually resin that's collected from trees and plants. It's kind of like a sappy substance, kind of like a sticky residue. So the propolis is actually used to seal and repair the hive. So if there's a crack or crevice in the hive, the bees are going to take this propolis and wedge it into that crack because not just humans that are after that honey, everything wants it, from ants, cockroaches, lizards, spiders. I've seen so many things inside the hive, so that they have to keep the hive safe. And so they take this sticky substance. And this sticky substance is why you see beekeepers use the hive tool. So if you've seen a beekeeper work in a bee yard, they always have that tool in their hand. And that's because the substance is so sticky, we have to use our tool to wedge out our frames and to pull out our frames of honey so we can work on the hive.
So when you have a propolis product, is that actually considered to be honey, or is that no?
Yeah, it's its own thing. So, it's more than just honey and beeswax from the hive. There's propolis, royal jelly, like you mentioned as well. And some people might even consider bee venom as well, something that's good from the hive.
Wow.
So, yeah, the propolis, you harvest in a different way. It comes out in like a waxy substance, and you can put something we call a propolis trap, and it's a little grate that has these holes in it, and the bees just instinctively fill up holes with propolis.
Amazing.
So we can take that, propolis, we extract it, and we actually make a throat spray as well. So like you mentioned,
I want that.
we can,
I want that. Do you have that at your store?
I do.
I
So we
need
have the honey, and we have essential oils in it, and the propolis, and it's basically a cure for sore throat, and it's also good for allergies as well. It's just a daily immune. Because not only for the beehive is it a physical barrier, it's actually antimicrobial and antibacterial. The bees benefit from that, and we benefit from that as well when we use it.
That is amazing. Now, keeping the bees there, do they know you? Do you think they know you?
They have a good sense. I think, they might know me a little bit because I'm in the hives a lot. The bees are a lot calmer than people think that they're going to be. So maybe they know me. But I find that when I go inside the hive, when I first beekeeping, I was really nervous. And so when you come with that energy of, nervousness, the bees are going to respond a little bit like, what's this person up to,
Yeah.
And so over time, I become more comfortable. I don't get nervous when I work with the bees. And I think it's a little bit more of that, the bee sense that, my heart rate is not increased and I'm not scared, so they stay relaxed as well.
Well, what kind of education? Because I love education about these kind of things, and you're educating me right now. I didn't realize any of that about propolis before, but I'm a big proponent of propolis. I did say proponent of propolis, but I didn't know what you're telling us. So you have an educational program. Do you have any available for people?
Yeah, so most Tuesday and Friday mornings, I have the Honeybee Adventure available up at our bee sanctuary at 10:30 a.m. So it's something that people can sign up for online. But I also do private tours by request, and they can just contact me directly. So people come up to the bee sanctuary, and we meet under our gazebo. And I tell people about bees. So it starts with a presentation where people basically learn all the basics about bees, from how they operate, how the hive is built, what the bees are collecting, what they're doing with it, how the honey is made. So lots of information. I've got pictures, and people kind of get a good understanding. So then we get in our bee suits, and we all are fully covered head to toe, gloves and all. And we go up into the beehive, and that's when people have that magical experience with the bees. And we take pictures and look at the frames that we're pulling out to see what we can remember from what was taught earlier. And it's a really fantastic experience, and it's really good for families, kids of all ages. I usually say 5 and up, but although I've had younger kids in bee suits as well, but 5 and up, they can kind of understand some of that material that I'm going over as well.
So how many beehives do you have there?
I have 12 on the bee sanctuary right now, but it can fluctuate from time to time. So just depends on what our weather is like. We've had a lot of drought this year, so there's not as much available for the beehive. So you don't want to spread them too thin. But yeah, I'm growing my apiary as well. We produce a honey called liquid gold honey. But in my shop and my farm, I do have honey from other beekeepers. So what I like to do, especially in my shop in Paia, is show people that honey's different. It's not all the same.
Yeah.
So even on Maui, in our small geographic area, I've got 8 different types of honey, and they all look, taste, and feel different taste, color, and texture based on what the nectar sources are that the bees are collecting and bringing back to their hive.
Do you try to plant things that you know that are going to taste good, so the bees can collect it from that around your area?
Yeah, not only for the taste, but also for the medicinal value as well. So just like herbs are good for us, herbs are good for bees. So plant things like lavender and sage because these have medicinal properties as well. So when the bees collect that nectar from those blossoms, they are bringing it back to the hive, and it not only benefits them, but it benefits us when it gets into the honey as well. So yes.
What's your favorite honey?
Well, my honey, I'm going to have to say. No, but it's a wildflower honey, and it's basically from lots of different floral sources up in our area. So we have things like Christmasberry, kiawe, the herbs, and I also grow a chili pepper as well, Hawaiian chili pepper. So that blossoms, and the bees are collecting it. So the nectar is not spicy, but the fruit, the peppers that come off of that are quite spicy. And yeah, I actually take those peppers, I dry them, and I put them in honey, and I have a hot honey. So it's sweet and spicy, and both things come from my bee sanctuary.
are people becoming more and more aware of how honey is so much better in your coffee and tea than having sugar? Or I hate that fake sugar. Oh my gosh!
I
Please take
know.
that fake sugar off the market. It's so bad for you. It is. It's not good for you.
It really is. Yeah, honey's low glycemic. It actually has very medicinal properties for you. It has all the vitamins, minerals, and enzymes that we need to survive. And so if we had no food available, we could actually survive on honey. But we can't say the same for sugar, that's for sure.
That is the truth. Do you have any special holiday deals going on or new products for the holidays?
That's a good question. So we just came out with a line of beeswax candles that are scented with different of those classic scents like gingerbread and pumpkin pie and vanilla.
Ooh.
So I have that. And this is a beeswax soy blended candle. And then I have a good collection of silicone molds that I use to make my pure beeswax candles. So we have Santas and Christmas trees and carolers and all the fun little things. So one of my passions is actually collecting candle molds. So this is something that people have made that you pour the beeswax into and you let it harden overnight. And then the next day you get to pop out a candle that's shaped in whatever that mold is. So I have a pretty big collection, I'd say. And so I have all those different options in my shop in Paia.
I think that sounds wonderful. Do you do an online thing where, people sometimes get busy and they want to go online?
Yeah, certainly. So dabeehive.com, and it's DA. So dabeehive.com.
Dabeehive.com. And no dots in there. It's just one word, Dabeehive.
Yeah.
Well, Erica, I love what you're doing. I really want some of that propolis. I want that throat spray. I want some candles. I want to find out all about it. I truly love bees. I don't know if you ever read the Diana Grabodin. I may be pronouncing her last name, but she's the one that wrote all the books for Outlander. And she's all into bees, you know. She has a whole series of books now about bees, and her one of her episodes was about bees and all that. So you might check that out. But bees are wonderful. I'm so glad you're embracing this whole thing with such a passion and have a. It's not only it's the store, which is so great to have. Beehive.com. 19. What's the address? No, it's not. What's your address on Baldwin?
16 Baldwin Avenue.
16 Baldwin Avenue, and you can also book a tour and go up and have lovely pictures from that great view up there. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And we have another guest. We don't need to take a break or anything. We're just going to go right into talking to Tom Burke. Tom is a small business owner. And again, I just love you for being a small business owner. He's a jeweler, a gemologist, owner of Burke and Burke Fine Jewelry and Gifts. And who doesn't like fine jewelry and gifts? Great Christmas gifts, of course. Tom is he started in Idaho at Jensen Jewelers, a family-owned shop just out of college with an associate in business retail. He started as a salesperson with Zales and also worked for Ben Bridge Jewelers. He relocated to Maui, where he's been working with Nahoku and was also recruited to work for Barron and Leeds. Tom eventually started his own jewelry company, making and selling jewelry direct to customers. Welcome. How are you this morning, Tom?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I love jewelry, and I especially love jewelry makers like you. But it's interesting because you see a lot of jewelry makers, but not a lot of gemologists who are jewelry makers. So how do you incorporate your designs, your unique designs that you make with the jewelry you make?
Well, see, I do different types of jewelry making. I have a lost wax cast collection that I do Hawaiiana designs. Mm-hmm. So some petroglyph designs I also do. So a lot of different things.
Yeah. What's your favorite favorite medium to work with that you can design with?
Well, I really like them all, but I would say the lost wax casting is fun because you take a block of wax and create something completely new. And then you cast it and make a mold. So it's very fun. I enjoy everything. Even the hammering of the jewelry I enjoy.
So obviously, if you're going to be doing gold or silver, the cost may vary, and it's got to be quite an interesting process. Do you get certain kinds of metals and jewels and silver to do your designs with? And what's your favorite? And that do you find that gold is very different to work with also from silver?
Yes, so you have to be a lot more careful with the gold, so especially in the finish work, because you could grind it away or polish it away just because it's much softer.
Mm.
But I do enjoy the gold because it's, finer quality. That's what I grew up selling, was high-end jewelry, so it's nice to be able to have gold in my collection as well. So.
I know in the fashion world, we have different things that come up in fashion designs per year, with shoes, with clothes you wear. But is the same true for jewelry? Are there certain fashions I saw some things that blew my mind. Is there were like this trend was started 5 years ago to wear these huge pieces of jewelry. But I mean, there are trends that go and come. And are you seeing that? And do you react and reflect that at all with your jewelry?
I do. So things always come and go, just like you were saying with style and fashion. Most of my jewelry I try to do more classic, so it's always going to be in style.
Mm-hmm.
Something you could wear anytime.
Mm. What kind of jewelry? Do you do necklaces? Do you do rings? What do you make?
Yep, all the basics. So rings, pendants, earrings, bracelets, and I do pearl strands as well, fine quality strands. So,
What kind of pearls?
mostly Tahitian and South Sea. I do the white and golden on the South Sea, and then I have a few Akoya pearl, and then also a few high-end freshwater.
I've seen some of the golden pearls, and I love those, but I'd never seen the one you said, the white pearl. I've never even heard of that before. I mean, I know white pearls that aren't Tahitian. I mean, obviously, but I didn't know Tahitian had white pearls.
Well, no, not mostly. Tahitian whites usually aren't pure white. It's more the white and golden South Sea.
Ah,
Traditionally was Australia. You find them in the Philippine Sea.
ah,
And then the Akoyas are from Japan. That's usually what you would see in like Mikimoto was Akoya. And I sold those years ago. And then also the high-end freshwater I have is either white or pink.
I had no idea. That must be beautiful.
Yeah, they're very fun.
Do things like the pearls or any other gems you use, does that inspire your design, or is it the other way around? You get the design and then you find the piece of jewelry or pearl that goes with what you've designed?
Both, but often when I find the pearl, then I create something to go for it. So
I would think so, especially if it's a special piece like that. Do you go just to the gem shows that like they have in Arizona and in Vegas, or how do you find your product?
I do have different suppliers, but I do go to the big shows definitely to find suppliers as well. So.
Well, jewelry's always in style. Jewelry's always a gift people want to give for Christmas and for Valentine's Day. And, there is something special because you keep a piece of jewelry. You keep a piece of jewelry for a lifetime, usually, unless you lose it. So, I mean, there is something timeless about jewelry, isn't there?
Oh, definitely.
Are you finding that do you have men buying your jewelry more or women?
Probably more women, but often men buy for the wife, and for themselves. But I'm probably more the women are my biggest customer base.
I would think so, for sure. I mean, do you ever do custom jewelry? People, actually commission you to do a piece of jewelry?
Yeah, I do that as well.
And what about wedding rings? Because that's actually I would guess wedding rings must be the highest end product you sell, huh?
I don't do a lot in the wedding rings because most of my things are everyday jewelry and gifts, like I mentioned. But I can do, since I am a gemologist from my years of training, I can bring in either certified diamonds or even just regular nicely cut diamonds, or some people want to have lab-grown or lab-created diamonds.
That's become a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I heard about a thing that went on Reddit that was like huge. It was a huge debate. There was a guy saying he wanted to get a wedding ring, and he didn't want to spend the money for the whole real thing. He was going to get a fake one, and he's told you can't tell the difference anyway. It would be morally incorrect to buy one that wasn't a real diamond and use the one that was created and not tell his fiancé. I don't think it's a good idea to not give the real thing if it's asked for the real thing, right?
Well, I think you need to be honest with what you're getting, so you wouldn't want to be upset later. But they do have the lab-grown diamond, which starts as a small and then it can be made bigger.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a fun thing. So
Yeah, I think that is rather interesting. I mean, in jewelry, and I don't know how many people are aware of this. I have seen, and I've known jewelers to say there's a huge markup that you get. You worked in these places, you worked at Zales and Ben Bridges. The markup can be kind of mind-blowing, can't it?
well, it depends on the store. As you know, certain ones have different sales from 25 to 75% off. So that's one thing I enjoy about making jewelry and selling it direct to customers. Then I know they're getting a good value. So,
Yeah, and I don't know if people really know the difference. I think especially men want to get a piece, and they think, well, if I get it from this, it'll be more impressive because it's from this store. But they don't realize that you can get a wonderful piece from someone like you at Burke and Burke, and it's even more special because it's handmade and it's done directly, and I think that makes it even more special.
I agree. Thank you.
So do you do it by do you have an online business? Is it mostly online, or do you have a retail business, or how are people finding you?
Well, at the moment, I do pop-ups. So I'm at the swap meet every week on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 7 in the morning till 1,
Mm-hmm.
space 208. And then usually on Fridays, I'm at the Fairmont Kailani. So
That's a
9 to
nice
5.
space. Fridays. What time is that? Start at the Fairmont?
9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every
Oh.
Friday.
That must be an interesting thing because you have a very high-end clientele there, right?
Right. So,
Yeah.
and now sometimes they've been remodeling, so sometimes our shows are canceled.
Oh.
So but usually we're there every Friday.
So what's the hardest part about being a small business owner? Because I love supporting small business owners, but there's unique challenges. And what do you find is the most challenging part?
I guess, well, kind of like the situation we just had. Went into a trade show. I purchased equipment and supplies, and then came back to the fire. So sometimes when we invest in things, situations arise, and so it might take a while to get paid off, or just a challenge to get.
Have you been seeing? I've been hearing a lot about some people saying, "Gosh, the business isn't back up yet at the Fairmont and down in Wailea," but I thought it was coming back. Are you seeing more visitors coming back when you do go out there to the Fairmont?
I'd say yes. So yeah, they closed it for a while because there wasn't enough traffic, and so now we've had some coming back in. And usually it gets busy at the resorts like right after Christmas, so that's the busier time.
Yeah.
For resorts usually. So.
Yeah, it does take a lot of perseverance, doesn't it?
Yes, it definitely does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that the Maui Chamber's been there and have been doing their thing, and I love what they do to support small business. I was trying to make it out and be present at the Meet on Maui this year, but I just couldn't get out there this year. I was happy to be able to sponsor it with our group. But have you ever been out to the Meet on Maui event?
Yes, I was in that as well, and this year was better than the last 2 years, so I was thankful for that. That helped me catch up and pay a few bills. So.
Well, that does make a difference, and I have seen that. I mean, some people that are local business people, entrepreneurs and creators actually find that to be one of their best resources, actually, to get by and to save the money and need the money that you need to keep getting more product going. It's kind of hard when you have these kind of years to actually make a budget and trying to figure out what's going to be happening. We're all kind of playing guesswork. But, I mean, when you're doing a small business like yours, you got to still hope that, things are going to get better. And most people I talk to say that next year is going to have more business coming our way.
Yes.
But you got to be able to have, I guess, a little bit of a cushion to get by, don't you?
Yes. or work a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you do your work? Do you have a studio you do your creations?
A lot of it more now is out of my home.
Mm-hmm.
But I have used up at the Noyal Visual Arts Center. I've used their classes, and I've learned how to do casting there, and I've used their studio time.
That's nice.
And also,
No, that's definitely nice. What's your most popular piece that you create?
let's see, the most popular. I do some spiral pendants with a Tahitian pearl in the middle. That seems to do really well.
Yeah.
And then ladies seem to love my hammered jewelry, so sterling silver. I do this bracelets and pendants and earrings. Those seem to sell really well.
I love those. Yeah, I love those. I had some beautiful handmade, hammered, very thin, delicate gold bracelets, 3 of them, and they either got taken going through TSA or somehow they disappeared. And I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad. I lost those. I have to get those replaced because they were special, you know. And it's really, I'm sure you probably have people that might say, you know, I was here before and I was on vacation. I lost this piece of jewelry and I want another one. You know, can you make it? Have you had that happen?
I have.
Yeah. I always recommend people to insure special things that they love that way. You know, not always can it be covered, but it's worth it. And folks, please, as an extra note, when you're going through jewelry, or you're going through TSA, you're going through anything, checking, and you're traveling, try to make sure you have your special things on you in a special place. I would suggest keeping them kind of in your purse. If it's gold, it can set up bells and things, but unfortunately, those things can get lost or unfortunately even stolen. So make sure you take care of it. Well, I'm really glad we had a chance to meet. How do people reach you, Tom?
Well, if they come to the either show that I told you about, or I do have Facebook, and it would be under Burke and Burke Incorporated Handmade Jewelry.
That's Burke and Burke Handmade Jewelry, right?
Yes.
And, you know, people, to check it out, really, it's wonderful to get a gift, a beautiful gift. Jewelry is a very special piece you'll cherish for a lifetime. And it's really nice talking to you, Tom. I wish you very happy holidays, Mele Kalikimaka, and the best of luck with all that you do.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Aloha. Well, that's all the time we have. That's Business Matters. I want to thank Amber and the whole team over there at the Maui Chamber. Of course, Pam, I'm sitting in for her. My name's Cindy Paulos of Kauai Radio. And a big mahalo to Mokulele Airlines. We do love and appreciate them. Folks, there's a lot of news out there about airlines, but Mokulele is local, and it's still in business, and it's a great airline. A big mahalo also to Gary Forsberg, the engineer here. We'll see you next week, and take care of yourself, and happy holidays.